Hi guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is Indy Fanatics, your home for IndyCar content with weekly podcasts and feature videos. Welcome back to the channel and to another feature video. Last time out we looked at Marcus Ericsson and Felix Rosenqvist's careers in IndyCar so far, so if you haven't already, check that one out. Don't forget, if there is a driver, team or topic you'd like us to look at in the future, comment below.
Yes, both Marcus and Felix had a very notable races last weekend for very different reasons. Today again is something a little bit different. We seem to be doing a lot of that recently, but as last week was the halfway point of the season so far, we thought we'd take this opportunity to have a mid-season recap and look back at what has been a great season so far.
So we will talk through the first 8 races, list our key takeaways so far this year, and look at what the rest of the season may hold. So Stephen, let's get this show on the road.
So we started things off in Barber, and pole position was won by Pato O'Ward, who had looked quick all through testing, because you know, Pato is the best driver in the world.
We're meant to be impartial here.
Hey, it's Pato. I'm just stating facts.
Okay, I see how this video is going to go.
Exactly. So let me get on with it. So Pato took pole, but probably another notable trend from that qualifying was that 3 Chip Ganassi cars made into the Fast 6, and they have looked the quickest team across the season so far. But the race after it became clear that Pato and Rossi had made the wrong decision to go on to a 3-stop instead of a 2-stop was a fight between Alex Palou, Will Power and Scott Dixon. The young Spaniard in his first race for Chip Ganassi drove superbly and took victory, holding off a late charge from Will Power. If people weren't taking Palou as a serious threat before, they certainly were now.
Race 2, we moved to the streets of St. Pete. Originally meant to be the season opener, but to stop a massive gap in the calendar between Barber and Texas, it slotted in between the 2 race weekends. The race was dominated by pole sitter Colton Herta, who led 97 laps of the 100-lap race. Despite late cautions bringing him back into play, Joseph Newgarden could not find a way to get past Colton and settled for P2, a result they both needed after Newgarden caused an accident on the first lap at Barber, which meant a low points return for both. Jack Harvey also impressed with a P4, and championship leader Palou could only manage a 17th place finish.
Round 3 and 4 was a double-header weekend at Texas, as off-track the conversation was dominated by the PJ1 compound, which was applied to the banking to assist grip for NASCAR, but made it near impossible for the IndyCars to race on, leading to a single racing groove through the corners, and overtaking was then more difficult. Race 1 was affected by this, and James Hinchcliffe suffered for putting too much rubber on the PJ1 and crashed out. Will Power also had a hairy moment later in the race, but managed to keep it out of the wall. Race 1 was all about Scott Dixon though. Texas is his stronghold, and he delivered. After starting P2 as qualifying was cancelled due to a rain delay early in the day, leading to championship order deciding the grid. He overtook Palou early and never looked back, controlling the race, leading 206 of the 212-lap race. Scott McLaughlin had his most impressive race so far in the season, with a late charge to P2, making it the first ever Kiwi 1-2 in the history of IndyCar. Pato completed the podium, and Palou came in P4 as Dixon took the lead in the championship for the first time.
The second race of the weekend started off with some bad luck for the back of the grid. Before they had crossed the green flag, there were several cars involved in a bunched up collision, including Connor Daly, who ended up crossing the start line upside down, Alexander Rossi and Sebastian Bourdais, and was only at the back because contact with Newgarden had forced him to retire the previous day, leading his championship position to suffer. Scott Dixon started the race on pole, and it looked like it was going to be back-to-back dominant victories for him at Texas Motor Speedway, leading 163 of the laps, but Pato was having none of it. After Graham Rahal had been fighting Dixon, Pato had overcut them both before a caution saw Newgarden cycle to the front, but Pato was desperate for that first win and made easy work of Joseph Newgarden when the race went green again and shot off into the distance. It meant that the first 3 races had been dominated by the young talent the series boasts.
Next up was the first stop at Indianapolis in the month of May, the Indy GP. Qualifying was all about Roman Grosjean as he secured pole in only his 3rd race in the season as he wasn't running the ovals. He led 44 laps of the 85-lap race in a really impressive performance before losing out on the lead to Rinus VeeKay, the impressive Dutchman who stormed through from P7 to claim his first victory in the series. Palou rounded off the podium as his impressive season continued, and Dixon could only manage 9th, though kept the championship lead heading into the Indy 500.
The Indy 500 is always special. It's the greatest spectacle in racing, but the 105th running of the race was a classic, and history was made as Helio Castroneves won his 4th Indy 500 with his new team Meyershank Racing, and it was the uplifting masterclass everyone needed after such a tough year for so many people with the pandemic. Pole sitter Scott Dixon and Alexander Rossi's races were ruined by a poorly timed early caution for them as they both ran out of fuel and it left them being a lap down. But it would be Palou and Pato who would be the main challengers to Helio in the race, and despite Palou's best efforts, he could not find a way past Castroneves at the end. Pagenaud had a storming drive through the field from near the back to a 3rd place, which left him at the end of the race as Penske's highest placed driver in the championship.
Both days were filled with fantastic racing throughout the field. In race 1, Felix Rosenqvist suffered a horrible crash that saw him miss the following day's race and will miss this week's race at Road America, where he was winner last season. Will Power, after working his way to the front and dominating the second half of the race, was caught out by a late red flag, and when the race was set to resume, he cruelly couldn't restart his car, which led to Marcus Ericsson securing his first win in the series, with young guns VeeKay and Palou joining him on the podium. Race 2 was dominated by Joseph Newgarden, though a late stint on the sticker reds left him an incredibly hard job to retain the lead. The first late caution looked as if it might have saved him from the quicker Colton Herta, but a second caution brought out by Grosjean's brakes burning up let loose a charging Pato on the restart. He was the quickest man on track, and after leading for 67 laps, getting a bit loose out of the corner into the back straight, Newgarden lost out on the lead to a Ward, with Pato claiming victory and a 1-point lead in this year's championship.
This season on paper looked like it was going to be a thriller, with all the talented drivers due to take part, and boy has it delivered. What has probably been a surprise is not the fact that IndyCar's young talent have won races in the series this year, but the fact that to date they have controlled the championship. Just how quickly Palou has settled at Chip Ganassi was a bit of a surprise, though his talent was clear to see. But he's performing with a consistency in championship winning race form that his legendary teammate Dixon is renowned for. The partnership Smith-Peterson Motorsports formed with McLaren always felt it would take them to the next level, but after just 2 seasons together and with their faith in Pato being rewarded, they already are starting to look like a team who is comfortable at competing at the front for race wins and championships. Rinus VeeKay was last year's Rookie of the Year, and he has very much picked up where he left off, and Indianapolis has definitely been the highlight of his season so far, with his first victory at the Indy GP and qualifying on the front row for the Indy 500 before leading 32 laps on race day, eventually finishing 8th. The American young gun in Colton Herta again impresses with his speed but also maturity behind the wheel, and St. Pete was an incredible performance for the 21-year-old controlling the race. But his season has been the most inconsistent of the youngsters, and most of the time with things out of his control, as Andretti as a team have another struggling year.
And that moves us on nicely to another surprise of the championship so far, and that is the continued inconsistency of Andretti Autosport as a team, and the unfortunate form of Alexander Rossi. One of the most talented drivers on the grid and always an expected title challenger and top performer at the Indy 500, seems to be going through the hardest season and a half of his IndyCar career. A topic we will look into in more detail in the future, but he is a guy who can't catch a break. Colton has been leading the team, but James Hinchcliffe and Ryan Hunter-Reay have struggled to find a consistent pace throughout the season, with the former yet to secure a top 10 finish this season. Another top team struggling is Team Penske. Crazy enough, as we are at this halfway point, the team have yet to secure their first victory of the year. They have had drivers finish second in 5 of the 8 races so far. Last weekend's race at Detroit will leave them questioning whether this year will be their year, after both days being in such strong positions and somehow not winning either of them. McLaughlin has had an impressive rookie season so far for the team, and Joseph Newgarden and Simon Pagenaud are both in title contention if they can put together a strong charge in the second half of the year. So it's not all doom and gloom for the IndyCar juggernaut, but a surprising performance so far for sure.
But those two big teams struggling show just how competitive the season has been this year, with 7 different winners in 8 races from 5 different teams, so the pick of the team so far has certainly been Ganassi. Jimmy Johnson continues to improve race by race as his struggling switch to the series continues. His partner in crime in the 48, Tony Kanaan, has really impressed with his pace on the ovals, and Marcus Ericsson is having a strong start to the season, with it being topped off by victory in last week's race in Detroit. Scott Dixon continues to do what he does so well every year in the championship, which is consistently rack up points and maximise the bad days to keep him there or thereabouts. But Pallou's performance makes himself the driver of the season so far, and Ganassi the team of the season so far.
But what next for this exciting season? Expect to see those who have been a disappointment so far to bounce back strong. Penske will no doubt win at least one race in the coming weeks. I hope that form will turn around for Rossi and he will secure a victory in this second half, and perhaps maybe 1, 2 or maybe even 3 more first-time winners in this series, with Jack Harvey, Connor Daly and Roman Grosjean all having strong performances so far this year without standing on the top step. As for the championship itself, we are sure that it will go down to the wire again and have no idea which way it will go. Palou and Pato lead the charge at the moment going into this weekend's race at Road America. But the two guys who have dominated the championship for the last 4 years in Dixon and Newgarden are there lurking, and when it gets to the business end, they are two guys who know how to get the job done.
One thing we can predict for certain though is that it will be an awesome rest of the season, with plenty of action each race, plenty of surprise to come, and plenty of displays of immense talent from such an incredible field of drivers that IndyCar is lucky to have. Even another talented former F1 driver in Kevin Magnussen couldn't down the opportunity to get involved when he was offered a chance to step in for Felix Rosenqvist this weekend. In our History of IndyCar series, we said that we were potentially in a new golden age for IndyCar. If this season continues how it's going, that argument certainly gets stronger.
But that's it for today's video. We hope you have enjoyed this mid-season review. Let us know what has been your favourite moments of the season so far. Who's been your star performer of the year? What's been the biggest shock? And of course, how much are you looking forward to the rest of the season? If you've missed the show so far, we hope this gave you a nice little recap of what's happened this year and has convinced you to jump on the IndyCar bandwagon. Don't forget, if there's a driver, team or topic you'd like us to look at in the future, comment down below.
And if they're new around here or haven't done so already, what can they do, Stephen?
They can like, subscribe and ding that bell.
Ding it! So for now, you Indy fans, keep racing!